Welcome to the Fantasy Goons podcast, part of the Pucks Out family. It's time to skip the book and find out the info you need to win your league with Bobby, Davey, and Brandon.
Now I gotta ride or die.
Welcome into the Fantasy Goons. I'm Bobby, he's Davey, and he's Brandon.
Hello.
You can find us on the three majors of social media now at The Fantasy Goons. Let's get you the info you need to be a champ. How are you guys this week?
Wonderful. It's very interesting right now because it's fresh out of the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Things have been shaken up a little bit, and I like it. It's good. I like that. I like this time of year.
Bondo, how's it going, bud?
Pretty good. We got us a Preds game this week.
Yeah.
I'm already locked into my first bye week of the playoffs, boys.
Same.
Making playoffs across the board for myself. So pretty pumped about that, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So how many leagues is that you're in the playoffs?
Just 4. But I'm only in 4. I'm 4 for 4.
I'm 3 for 3 this year, so we're doing our job, guys.
Now, to be fair, in one of those
4 for 8 this season.
in one of those 4 leagues, everybody makes the playoffs. So
Okay.
I'm not doing great in that league, but I did make the playoffs though.
And that's what matters.
I'm
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs?
You got it, Mora.
kidding
You
me?
know what's up. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really looking for it. Looks like I'm having another bye week next week if I should be able
Nice.
to hold on. Even after a poor showing this past week in our main league, guys. Still pulled it out. Still in number 1 spot. You are so close, though.
I am creeping right now.
I am not looking for it because I'm not having a great week currently, and you're killing it right
I'm
now.
14-0
So,
right
yeah,
now.
you're killing it. So I'm going to need to step it up if I want to maintain one of those bye weeks. But this is an important episode for folks. So
And with that said, this is a quick episode because we've got a game to get to. So we're going to jump right into the news. Today, we're talking a little bit of the trade effects on fantasy. We've got our normal stuff like pickup, stream of the week, and tail and fade.
I got a few out for the season, folks, that are cleared to drop in regular drafting leagues. Which
Why don't you give us those?
Yeah, Boone Jenner out for season, broken finger. Zach Werenski had some surgery. He's out for season. Bobby Ryan out for season. Blake Wheeler, no timetable to return, and Stamkos is definitely going to be out for this upcoming game that I'm, within the week we're in. It is likely that Tampa holds him out till playoffs type of deal. They've done it before. I wouldn't be surprised if they did it again. That's not great news for what I'm sure a lot of you have coasted on the draft value of Steven Stamkos. To be held out like that.
Yeah, and he was like one of my fantasy MVPs in the preseason. He's been very good. Let's hope that he helps you out in your playoffs, though.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Also, Willie Nylander is also out for COVID protocols, though by the time that this episode airs, he should be available pending any type of issues or anything, which is why I didn't originally bring him up.
Yeah, okay. I think we should note too, Freddie Anderson, goalie for Toronto. He was moved to long-term IR recently. So
David Rittich season.
Yes.
David Rittich season. That might be a good option.
Feels like 2015, baby. But all right, let's move into trade effects on fantasy. I've got a little bit of stats for these. I'll start us off with Taylor Hall. We talked about this a little bit on the main show, and they're kind of the same stats. 14% in his Hart Trophy winning season with the New Jersey Devils in 17-18. Is at the apex shooting percentage of his career? So far, yes. He shot less than 10% in 6 of his last 7 seasons, including 6.9%. Close to nice, but a little bit of a period in there. In scoring 16 goals in 65 games.
I'd say 6.9 counts as nice.
Nice. Yeah. 16 goals in 65 games last season for the Devils and the Yotes, and a pathetic 2.3% in scoring 2 goals in 37 games this season for the Sabres. Key phrase there, like I said in the main show, for the Sabres. He is with a good team now. So, listen, we talked a lot about this on the main show, but I like this for Taylor Hall. I've got some money that he'll score tonight, I think, in his first game with the Bruins. Might be tomorrow night. So let's what do you guys think? Is that I mean, I think this is obviously there was only going up for Taylor Hall in fantasy.
Yeah, he couldn't go
he
down
was
here.
at below the floor.
Yeah, this is what it's looking like. This is where it's shaping up to be based on what I'm seeing here. Taylor Hall slotted into the left wing side with David Krejci centering. Second line with Craig Smith. Looking like he is going to be playing the second power play unit as a defenseman. So that's what I'm reading right now.
Five offensemen.
Yeah, so that's what it's
five
looking like.
Forwards running
and
on
1D. And so that's what it's looking like right now. Yeah.
Some standard.
So I mean, he's got a good line. Krejci and Smith. Smith's actually playing really good hockey.
Krejci is doing really well lately as well.
Krejci has always been really good. Dude.
I like that line. I like this for Taylor Hall and Boston.
Davey, why don't you tell us a little bit about Kyle Palmieri?
Yeah, Kyle Palmieri. This was one of the places I kind of wanted him to go. Going to New York Islanders, changing scenery. Well, I mean, is this going to help him? He doesn't even need the help, to be honest with you. He's always been a pretty solid fantasy option. I always see him in the top options. Better than 0.33 goals per game since 15 and 16. This season, he's at 0.24 with 8 goals in 34 games. He has not been lower than 0.66 points per game during that span. This season, he's at 0.50. So impressive stats there. I'm seeing him. This is what I'm looking like right now. Third line, he's going to play left wing with Peugeot centering and Wallstrom on right wing. And it looks like he will also get second line power play time. So, yeah.
Honestly, you should drop him just because he had to lose the beard.
That's really
right.
But in all seriousness, getting some power play time is going to be key for him. He is very prolific power play goal scorer. So that is extremely valuable as a fantasy option. When sometimes going to a better team can hurt you, I don't necessarily, and moving to the third line, it might, unless you can get some of those valuable power play points that can come out of that. Next guy, we have Anthony Mantha, 24 goals in a season twice and matched that pace in 43 games last season with the worst team in the NHL during a rebuild. 5.7 million through 23-24. We talked about this a little bit on the main show. I think this was a great trade deadline move for the future for the Caps. They gave up quite a bit. I think it was a really good move for all parties involved. We'll see how it ends up for the Capitals as they took the much larger risk on this end.
Vrana's a stud, man. I like Vrana.
He is. Mantha has been held captive in Detroit there. I am really excited for this move. Left wing, right wing capability. I'm actually going to talk about it a little bit. Talk about him in a little bit as far as a pickup of the week. I am pleased with the move. They gave up quite a bit to get him, but I think it's going to work. There's a lot of star power there. This is a guy that can slot into nearly any of their lines. I'm excited for that move for the Capitals. It was what I said earlier as a cup move for the Capitals, in my opinion.
And it looked like, and I hope you don't mention this earlier or later, but looking like he's going to be on the second line with potentially.
I didn't have any specifics on where, so so that will supplement my discussion.
So Backstrom and Oshie, it's looking like,
but that's a really, really solid place that you want to be, and it really bolsters my pickup option for him if that's where he lands for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, well, I'm going to round us out with Nick Felino, under 50% in puck possession this season, 46.2 for his Corsi. Expected goals percentage at 45.16. He has a -2 goals scored above average. Better shooting season, 9.6 than he did last season, which was a 7.6. But neither is up to his established standards of 11.6, which is a pretty high.
That's super high. It's too high, in my opinion.
And he has 7 goals and 9 assists in 42 games this season. Will that create space for Tavares and Marner? I think so. And, again, I say, like we said on the main show, we talked about all this in the main show this week. But I think that he's going to benefit from this, but everyone that he plays along with is going to benefit from his presence.
Yeah, I definitely said earlier on the main show that I think that this is more of a great hockey move for the Maple Leafs than it is a great fantasy move for you. And unless you already have the guys that he's going to be helping out, this isn't something that we can give you insight on. Like, you're not dropping Tavares already. You're not dropping Marner already. So if you have them, this could definitely help you out. But I think it definitely hurts his fantasy value. Probably slotting in third line. I mean, he is going to be, it was one of those things that I said in the main show that is not necessarily fantasy focused. I think it was probably one of the best moves from one of those top teams in terms of what it can do for your team.
For sure. And he's a versatile guy too. So they could literally they could slot him in pretty much any line, and he probably would be okay in those spots.
They're not bringing him in for his point scoring and goal scoring ability, which can go any which way. Any time you bring a guy in, I mean, they could score or they could not score,
right? Because
chances are that they're not going to score. Whereas Felino is brought in for what he can provide the team, and I just think as far as a hockey move, it was probably one of the better moves. The trade deadline, I don't know how much it'll help fantasy for him, fantasy for guys that you're going to pick up. I think it ultimately hurts your options fantasy wise unless you already have the guys that Bobby was talking.
Yeah.
So let's move into our pickups. I've got Connor Brown. Right now, we are a lot of you in the playoffs. Some of you are coming up in the playoffs. You need deep guys. Some of us, like me, are struggling bad from injuries. He's a left wing, right wing positioning from Ottawa. He has scored in 7 straight as a recording. Franchise record, 16% owned. In deep leagues, you know what? Maybe he's not great in cat leagues, but if you're in a points league, this guy's going to get you some points. He's going to continue playing. They're working on their young guys. This is a good young guy who looks like a very talented goal scorer.
Yeah, and not a lot left on Ottawa. It's one of the few potential pieces. The only thing I hate is only a 3-game week and 1 off night. And then the other 2 games are against Vancouver, which could not happen.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you get him now, you're going to get him. Listen, get him. He's not going to, this isn't the best week to have him, but people are going to, the games that he's going to keep performing well. And then people are going to start getting him. So you have him for the next week and the week after that.
These pickups to me are just so valuable right now that you can't pick up a guy for a Monday game when his only other 2 games of the week could potentially not even happen. So that would be my biggest thing.
But those games are going to get rescheduled for when you're deep in the playoffs.
If you have a bye week this week, it's one of the guys that I'm definitely targeting. So I'm not hating on your pick, Bobby. I'm just saying those guys that have just squeaked into that 6th playoff spot, it may not be the spot to go for you if you can't afford to miss 2 extra games.
Yeah, I like him. I like Connor Brown a lot. The only thing that scares me about him is he did bounce 3rd and 4th line a little bit. He does play second power play unit though, for sure, so that helps. And he's been fairly consistent as a player for only being 16% on, so it's a good stream.
And not to add on to my trying to argue my point and make it look better or anything. Even if you have a bye week this week, the following week they have 2 games against Vancouver and 1 against the Habnadians, which is not until later in the week. If all 4 of those Vancouver games get canceled, that could be an ad that hurts you.
But if you have an 8-ad league, grab him for his game.
Right. If you're not struggling on ads each week, it's not a bad
league.
No, it's not a bad. I didn't want to argue it's a bad call, but I did feel it was needed for us to throw this out there to a few of the folks that may. First of all, I don't think we've established ourselves enough to where you hear one of us say it and then you go at him. Like, obviously, hopefully you're doing a little bit of independent research on your own. But, for those, I feel like most of our pickups have played fairly decent. So there may be some folks out there that do that. Just keep that in mind. You got a 4 to 5 ad team.
I'm still getting thanked from people about my Matthias Ekholm. Yes, I'm the person who thanked me, but I'm still getting thanked.
You're right. I thank myself every morning. I wake up and look in the mirror
high five to
and
myself.
thank myself. So it's one of those. great pick, Bobby. And I'm not trying to disparage
I'm going to edit
that.
out everything out except for that right there.
That's okay. And that's fine. And that's your prerogative as the person who edits the podcast. But I did want to throw that out there that, be careful if that's one of your ads and you're in a low ad for sure.
Yeah. All right. Bondo, what do you got?
Yeah, I actually have a couple for the folks. Like I said, we want to get as much info out there as we can in the short amount of time we're going to be recording. My higher percentage pickup that we have, Anthony Mantha. I've already talked about that. Davey already talked about him possibly getting slotted in the second line with Backstrom and who was the third? Oshie. Wow. I mean, what a great line. Even if it's just secondary assists that you're going to pull in, I'm sure that he'll probably get a little power play 2 time. 44% rostered. They have 4 games this upcoming week. Left wing, right wing capability. It's going to be interesting to see how he fits there in Washington, obviously. I'm not dropping anything like huge for him or anything, but you'll definitely want to have him if he gets hot, especially if you're one of those lower end teams that needs a spark to move on to the next round. He could be what provides it. So it's almost the question of, am I keeping Anthony? Am I picking up Anthony Mantha, or am I risking it with a guy like Johnny Gaudreau, who has been very, very slow lately?
Yeah,
and
really
in some leagues that I got some decent positioning, I've been able to grab Johnny Gaudreau. But if I wasn't in such a good position playoff wise or bye week wise, it wouldn't be a risk that I'm taking on Johnny Gaudreau. I'm taking the risk on the other side, going to a guy like Mantha.
Yeah,
56% available.
In Mantha, for me, I think I talked about him on the show maybe a month or 2 ago.
Yeah, I think you did.
And he was one of my guys that I decided to part ways with because of the team he was playing for. Now, if you flash back, and 2 months ago he was playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs, he's a guy you probably aren't dropping at that time. So I think that this is going to do great things for the Capitals. Sorry, but I think it's going to be great. I like this move a lot.
And then my lower percentage pick that, so we can get more of a majority, because I like to keep it real low on percentage wise. So most of the folks listening can go and grab him. Jake Debrusk, 6% rostered right now. As you'll hear later, I'm tailing Boston this week. Could be a great ad with 4 games, new energy after the trade deadline. I think I already said left wing, right wing, but since him coming back from injury, 5 games back, he averaging 1.8 shots per game. In the past 5 games, about 15 minutes of ice time, only 2 points since he's returned, but power play points in that. So getting a little power play time, which may go away with Taylor Hall coming in. It just depends on where he's slotted. I mean, at 6% owned with a dual capability in 4 games this week, you may be able to find some spots for him. So I gave you my big pickup, but not a lot of availability across the leagues. Whereas Jake Debrusk should be available in most of what you're looking at.
Yeah. All right, Davey, round us out in our pickups.
Yeah, so I have Chandler Stevenson for the Vegas Golden Knights. He's 18% rostered, center left wing eligibility. Currently, he's sitting at 8 goals, 15 assists, 248 faceoffs won. He's decent in the hits and blocks category as well. He's playing for an excellent team, and he's this is the part that really gets me. This is fresh. This has just happened over the last couple of weeks. He's now centering the first line with Pacioretty and Stone.
Wow.
And he's on the first power play unit. So I grabbed him today in Pack of the Litter. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had to. I mean, you can't. There's a few guys here and there that you could drop.
Went and grabbed Mantha before
absolutely.
Before the pod. Too,
I almost did. I almost grabbed him, and I picked Stevenson over him just because I liked where he was slotted in the lineup.
I dropped James Van Riemsdyk.
And that's one of those guys
slow,
hard to drop. But
almost dropped Krejci.
Okay.
But I was like, the value long term could be really there for Krejci. And now that you said, he may be centering Taylor Hall's line, I was like, great move, Brandon.
Well, and another good thing for Chandler Stevenson this week is he's got 4 games, 3 against the Sharks and 1 against Anaheim. So if you're playing first line against these teams, I expect some production out of him in all the categories that he's good for. So that's my pick.
Sure up that top spot. in the West.
All right, let's move into our streams of the week. I've got pretty much the young guys on the Preds. Right now, they've got 3 against Chicago. A lot of vets are injured. These are a huge 6 points up for grabs. These young guys will want to prove themselves. And so far this season, the second half of the season, the young guys have been the driving force for the Predators. And I don't see them going anywhere. Listen, if you've got Preds players or even Preds young guys, play them this week. They have been pretty good against Chicago this year. And they're going to be pushing hard. They want to get in the playoffs like any team, but more than usual because, listen, the Preds, their windows, many have said their window have already closed. This is, I think, this is their last year. If they want to get something going, they've got contracts coming up.
I don't know how you guys feel. I'm sorry to cut you off, Bobby, if you weren't done. I am very excited with the minimalistic moves that the Predators made. I feel like you shouldn't have gone and made any moves hardcore one way or the other.
Yeah.
That seemed to have been
but at the same time,
hurt us in the past few
seeing
years.
how little Bruins paid for Taylor Hall,
Mm-hmm.
what would we've had to pay for Taylor Hall on it? Like I feel like we could have paid a reasonable amount to get Taylor Hall.
And I know it's really difficult right now to get rid of somebody like an Ekholm, who was the number 1 name on the block for the Predators. But I felt like this was the year they had to do that. I mean, coming into the expansion draft, coming in and all these things, they only have a limited amount of people to protect.
Well,
right now, he's valuable.
I get
like.
that. And so this morning, David Poyle, when asked, he actually said he was never planning on getting rid of Ekholm, and not just that, Ekholm will not be available.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So who are they going to put up? Fabro?
I really like that.
I mean, they
well,
might.
I mean,
hopefully
you do
Matt Duchene.
Well, you do what
that'd be
they
great.
you do what they did last time, right? I mean, protect 5 defensemen, 9 skaters.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do that with Fabro, Yossi, Ekholm, Ellis.
Or do what the Preds did, leave open an old vet who is going to retire. And,
James Neal?
Yeah, I mean, listen, be like, oh, yeah, you want to take
That dude is the real deal, guys. Yeah. That dude was the real deal.
So I'm sorry, I don't know anybody by the name of James Neal. I know someone by the name of Callie Youngcroak.
I know somebody by the name of Real Deal. Okay. No, I like that I didn't want us to sell off.
Yeah.
I didn't want us to go and pay a premium for a guy like Ryan Hartman that could be something or not. So I really like we're streaking right now. So
I didn't want to sell. That was my biggest. I didn't want to be like that because you know what? Just get in the playoffs. You're in playoff contention, but we gotta stay there. We gotta get in the playoffs.
I agree. I mean, even if we lose first round, nobody can blame him for losing first round, but you can blame him for selling off and us missing the playoffs.
So here's the thing. There is we're closing in on maybe 16 games left in the season, something like that.
15, yeah. Some teams less.
The opportunity is there to sneak into that third position. I mean, we've got to win the games that we should win and win the games that we shouldn't win if we want to get that done.
Is it going to be one playing 4?
I believe one
via
playing
division.
Yeah, I think
division.
I think right now we're lined up to play Tampa.
Tampa. Okay, so it's one playing 4 within your own division. Yes. Okay, so we're lined up to play Tampa. Honestly, though, moving into third and then having to play Carolina doesn't sound like that much more intriguing.
Well, there's also the shot that we get into third and end up playing Florida.
That's who you want. You want Florida. I mean, 100%.
I don't know. We've struggled with Florida this year.
Well, we've struggled against all those teams. So.
Well, right. So, I mean, why not pick the team that made no moves at the deadline?
Yeah. And if you lose to, it's like, hey, we lost to the defending champs.
I feel like Florida's starting to fall a little bit, but meanwhile, they're still playing good hockey.
I think just to bring up, since we've brought up Florida and we're doing pretty okay on time, I do want to highlight, I don't know how you feel about this, Davey. We brought it up on the main show. Brandon Montour, I feel like, was a fantastic hockey move for Florida. It really added a great piece for them. I mean, obviously you're not going to replace Ekblad, but Montour, I mean, he's been a product of his team this year. I mean, he's played pretty well in Anaheim over the past few years. I feel like we could have put up pretty equivalent stats at Buffalo. And I skated like 4 or 5 times in my whole life. It just didn't seem like it was that hard to be a part of the Buffalo Sabres hockey team.
I'm happy for him to get out of there.
Me too. And I think Florida was a really great move. I'm not looking like, if we're being completely honest, in a 7-game playoff series, as a Predators fan, it's crazy for me to say this. I think we match up better with Tampa. We've lost. I feel like we've lost more to them than we have the other two. But when playoffs come around, it's a different ball game, and I just feel like we fit better against them than we do against Carolina or Florida.
Well, they did whip up on the season 1 game, didn't they? I mean, pretty big score. What was it? I don't remember that one, but that was the Preds beat them pretty big this season.
Well, and I mean,
it looked good. It looked great.
yeah. And now they had some players out that game and stuff, and then they've come back and they shut us out pretty recently. It's more about, look, I trust that despite winning the Cup last year, that Tampa without Kucherov will slip more than these other two teams have throughout the season. Tampa's been extremely, extremely streaky. So, you get them on the right end of a streak, that's an opportunity to move to the next round. And with that confidence of moving to the next round comes opportunities to, just like we did. I mean, 2017, you sweep the best team in quotation marks in the league. Bro, that you can't tell me that confidence didn't burn them through multiple more rounds after the fact. So, Davey, I really liked yours, and it was gonna be mine. But you beat me to it.
It's tough to want to stream a team like the Dallas Stars, especially because they're still back behind Chicago and Nashville for that 4th spot. But
not far enough
too far.
to where it
it's
scares
tight.
you from them.
It's tight.
And this week right here.
Oh, yeah. This is the big one. This is the big one. 4 games, must-win games against the Detroit Red Wings.
On the main show, I said it's the most important week of their season.
Oh, gosh. Hands down.
And we both agreed. I think they split.
Yeah.
I think they
might
do, too.
They might. But here's what we got. The return of Sagan, Bishop, and Radulov. It's near. It could be. It could be here. And I'm hoping by the time, this airs, they're back. I really do. I'm banking on that. And that's like receiving excellent hockey players at the deadline. That's like going out and trading for top names in the league, And so they're getting 3 of these guys back who are difference makers on and off the ice, hands down, no matter what. So now that's the primary reason I think Dallas stood pat at the deadline. Now, they did claim Sammy Vatanen on waivers from New Jersey, but he's not a fantasy appeal.
Don't hate that, right? Well, I feel like he could provide some. I feel like it's one of those pieces like Nick Felino. That adds to that top portion of which is a much more acquirable group than the Toronto Maple Leafs guys that are going to get a boost. Right. I mean, Tyler Sagan may be available in your league. Type of deal.
He might be. Well, and Vatanen last year had 5 goals, 18 assists, 50 hits, and 80 blocks. That's pretty good stats.
I don't hate it.
Not bad for a guy to just claim.
And he's and especially in a categories league, Vatanen was a pretty good across the board Cats guy. Dallas Stars, as we sit right now, are 3 games played behind the Predators, but only 6 points behind the Predator. I mean, we're talking we could be having a showdown come the end of the season.
I think we're gonna.
You have to win at very least 3 of these 4 games against the Red Wings. You have to if you want to be relevant playoff-wise. I think, though, that for our purpose here, putting him as the stream of the week, I think that all 4 games you're going to get performances from these guys.
You got a desperate team, desperate times call for desperate measures. These boys are going all out. These guys they're going to win big, I think.
Lindell's going to be available. Like you said, Radulov coming off injury, probably available. Sagan probably available. I've seen Jamie Benn available in some leagues, not many, but he's out there to those that don't believe in the Stars.
Guryanov's available in some leagues. I mean, he's struggling this season, but he's still going to be available, and he's going to be skating second line. So you get him,
You might be able to get some pieces for sure, and some good matchup pieces. I really loved the pick because it was right like I like to go with that stream of the week. That team that needs it this week.
Yeah.
Mine, I have a team similar to Davies' team. The Rangers 4 games against the Devils this week. On the tail of Boston for that 4th spot. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So tough schedule to pull them in. But if you can grab one of these guys early, you're going to get 4 games across the week on a lighter game week overall. Might be tough to get them into the lineup, but my thing is, if you're listening to this on Monday, find a guy that you like that you can stream across 4 games, and you can get 4 games out of one of these ads, because this week is going to be so important to what's your weak spot, what's their weak spot, what matchup can you exploit. If you've been destroying teams each week by 15 goals, don't go out and find the goal scorer. Go out and find the hitter that's going to give you 15 more hits. And, so like that's what I'm looking at is the Rangers, who are streaking right now and have a chance to slide into that playoff spot if my tail is to drop.
All right, we're cutting it close, so we're just gonna keep trucking on. Let's move into our tail and fade. Tailing the Pens. They've got 3 against the Devils, 1 against Boston. I think that's pretty much sums up what they, listen, it's going to be a shootout with Boston, but I mean, they should be able to just roll over the Devils. Davey, what you got?
Yeah, there's no surprise here. It's certainly one of the obvious choices here with the Vegas Golden Knights. They have some fantasy relevant options to slot in, including Alex Tuck, 40% owned, 14 goals, 11 assists, 4 power play points. Chandler Stevenson, who we talked about earlier. Riley Smith, still relatively available, 30% owned. He gets hits as well, so that helps. Love the addition of Matthias Janmark. Got to know him pretty well in his Dallas days, and he has great potential to be a threat. I think he's got 10 goals, 9 assists. Pending where he's slotted, I think he's going to be a decent stream for some folks.
All right, Bondo, what you got?
I have the Boston Bruins, 4 games this week: Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. So a couple of off nights. First 3 are against the Sabres, so that is boding well. The other game against the Pens, Mike Riley, the defenseman that they acquired from Ottawa, 19 assists this year. Could be a good potential ad depending on where he gets slotted on the D pairing, especially if you need a good defenseman with a good few games.
I like that.
Interested in seeing Taylor Hall's deployment, which I had written on my doc before you kind of mentioned what the thought process is. I'm doubling up on my opinion with Krejci and Craig Smith.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a right level of deployment for him with some power play 2 time. I said, I noted on here before knowing the potential deployment, check for some cheap line deployments. Craig Smith and David Krejci are about as cheap as they come when it comes to adding. Not great versatility in terms of their positioning, but if you get a guy, especially if you're higher opportunity, you have a bye this upcoming week, I'm going and adding a couple of those Boston players in the chance that that line starts lighting it up. I'm tailing Boston this week. They need some wins. They need to put some space in between them and the Rangers. And I've got directly conflicting picks on my stream and my tail for that reason, because I mean, both teams could show up and play and they don't play each other. So that could be a good opportunity for the 4 Devils games for the Rangers and 3 Sabres games for the Bruins with some new pieces added.
Why don't you take us right into your fading?
Yeah, I'm going to fade the Ducks this week. They've been playing a little better as of late, so this isn't my last week Sabres pick because they're just bad. They are, but they're not horrendous. There is a little bit of value there, but only 2 games this week, seemingly nothing to play for at this point. You could find some useful stream options, if the timing works out and it doesn't hurt you long term. I mean, Adam Henrique has been pretty decent. So I'm not completely hating on the Ducks, but except for the fact that, I mean, 2 games is a really rough week to get over if you have, because like at this point, I'm dropping David Pastrnak if that's the only guy that doesn't have a game if I don't get to the next round. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, we're at the point where you're dropping anybody and everybody to make sure you move on because that's all that matters.
And they sent down my boy Trevor Zegras. So I got him in a couple leagues, and he did well, but he's in the NA spots for me in a lot of leagues.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you have that NA spot, it's a perfect opportunity to grab. If you have a bye, and you can foresee a decent week for one of these guys, that the bye week is that time that's your biggest advantage is that you can go and grab these little guys that doesn't hurt you long term. But make sure you plan for that. You have 5 extra ads as opposed to your opponent, but it doesn't help if you add a guy that only has 1 or 2 games the following week. So make sure you're checking on that. But Ducks are just something I'm staying away for. Playing Kings in Vegas, the games are too far apart to have any value early on. It's a Tuesday and a Saturday game, so it's not like you can add a guy on Tuesday and hold him through Saturday to make it give you any value. If it was a Tuesday and Thursday, maybe you could argue taking that guy. A Tuesday and Wednesday, you can find some spots and then get rid of him as another streaming option. Tuesday and Saturday are just too far apart, and this is not one of the weeks that I would suggest using an ad for a 1-game player.
Dave, what do you got?
So I have.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I do have a quick. I know we're on a time crunch, but I do have a quick bonus. Edmonton Oilers also only have 2 games this week. Your stars you're keeping, those fringe guys, you got to get rid of if you're in the cusp. So I did want to throw that on there because that's a team that guys probably have a lot of those fringe guys playing on Draisaitl and Connor McDavid's line. Unless you can afford it, it's some of those guys that I'm not holding in the chance that I think that the main 4 guys, Mike Smith, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, RNH, Ryan Nugent Hopkins. Yeah, I forget his first name was the biggest thing. So that's something I want to throw out there that I'd probably be looking to drop them if you can't afford to hold.
Nice. So I have the Calgary Flames. They've lost 8 of their last 10. They're going to keep on losing. I guarantee it. They lost Sam Bennett and David Riddick. Now that those 2 guys have been traded to better teams, though, Bennett, Florida Panthers, and Riddick, Toronto, I think their fantasy appeal certainly increases a little bit. I mean, I don't think they were ever huge fantasy relevant guys, but the Flames are about 8 points out of a playoff spot as of recording. I think they're done. I am fading the Calgary Flames.
Cool. And we're in the 2-minute drill right now. I've got the Canucks, if they're even back, and this was going to be a discussion topic, but it is what it is. Will they even be trying? Summing it up, no. The fact is these guys are going to be coming back from pretty severe, some of them severe COVID symptoms. No, they're not going to be trying that hard. They're going to just be trying to be just right out to the end of the season. All right, everyone. Thanks for bearing with us on this quick episode. We will see you all next week, and good luck.
Peace.
This has been the Fantasy Goons podcast, brought to you by Standing Stone Farms. Listen to the boys every week and join in on the conversation on the 3 majors of social media.